We got the island. I got the beach vibes going on.
Bro, beach vibes in the
Yeah,
background.
Yo,
Lenny, how do I even say your last name, by the way, bro?
Poliziani. If you want to say it with an if you want to say it with an Italian accent, it's Poliziani.
Poliziani.
Yeah.
No, let's go, bro. So let's see. Are we streaming live on Facebook yet? I want to make sure people on the Facebook get this. If not, they're gonna have to wait. They're gonna have to get it secondhand. People on IG are already there. Facebook is taking sweet time. All right, cool. So, Lenny, before we get on Facebook, I gotta know: is there anything that's off limits?
None. We're going deep into the mind.
Yo, let's go. All right, so what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Into the Mind. I'm your host, Marlon Johnson, and I'm a former parkour athlete turned real estate entrepreneur. Today, we're going to be diving deep with another guest on this show where you already know what we do here. We come and we sit down and we analyze individuals that have achieved success, people that have gone through a journey. We learn about the highlights in their lives, but we also study the mistakes that they've made so that we can learn from it and we can replicate the things they do well, learn from the lessons they've made. So today, I'm chilling with my boy, Lenny. I'm not even going to try and say your last name again. I just tried and you're talking about fresh with it. I ain't fresh with it, man. But like, Lenny, what's been super cool about you is I've watched your journey. I've watched you grow so much as an entrepreneur, so much as a person, really just putting systems together, being consistent, being dedicated, really recognizing what consistency can do for a business. And you've done some pretty amazing things to the point where you even have recently joined into a mastermind, a vetted mastermind, not just one that you pay to get access to, but one that you actually need to show up with a resume where you need to be doing at least, I believe it's like about 75 deals a year on annual to even enter into this space. But obviously it did not start there. You didn't just, roll out of bed one day, decide to be a real estate investor and decide to crush it. So what I want to do today is I want to go into your story, bro. I want to dive deeply into your mind. I want to learn about the mindset it took for you to get to the point where you're at, where you ultimately would like to continue your journey. And actually, really what I want to know more too is about your origin story, man. I actually don't know your origin story all that well, bro. So Lenny, take me back, bro. Give me some origin story here of like, who were you before real estate, bro?
100%, man. And I heard your intros were good, man, but I had to get it personally done. And that was a great intro, man. I appreciate it. And this is cool because, you hopped on my podcast and obviously, we've been boys and we know each other through real estate, but that's where our friendship started. And I had no idea, who you were before the journey as well. So that was really cool. So it's only right that you find out about me. So before real estate, so it started back, I'd say probably in my teenage years where I just had these crazy thoughts, and I knew, even though that the route was to always, go to college, get a job, that was ingrained, that was the right thing to do. I was always looking for something outside of the box, but I didn't know that, I didn't really know. It's not like I was deep diving into books or anything at that age. I was a normal kid. I played sports and didn't really pay attention to any of that. It started, I guess, in high school. I started my own landscaping company. So I didn't know what a blessing that was at the time, but I did everything. Basically, I started out doing in real estate. I put an ad in the newspaper. I would door knock, all this stuff. It was crazy now that I think about it. I think I called it Landscaping Plus. That was the name. But I had a trailer, a truck, and I loved it, man. And I never really had I never worked at a fast food restaurant or had any jobs like that structured. So this is all I knew was kind of just a hustle. I snow plowed. I did things like that. And, I just thought that was a hustle or a side hobby, but I thought the real thing was to go to school and get a structured job. But I made good money and I did it throughout the summers and had to put myself out there, learn sales skills, but also, had a product. So that carried into college. And man, when I went to college, well, my dad, he's a dentist in Pittsburgh and he started his own practice. And so I thought that, that's obviously, a good path to go down. He was the first one to go to college out of his family, and kind of the same thing. I mean, he's got the gift of gab, and he wanted to be successful. And I think he had a neighbor growing up that was a dentist, and that was obviously he looked up to that, and that's kind of, you know, through trial and error, and he settled on that, and you know, he's done pretty well. But so that's what I thought I wanted to do. And you know, I went to school for exercise physiology, and I always got good grades, and so I was all science based. And you know, when I was out there on my own, you know, and kind of like had the come to real moment, that I didn't really want to be a dentist. You know, it got to the point where, you know, I started, you know, going deep into these science classes and shadowing and all of this. And I'm like, oh crap. You know, I kind of got lost for a second. Bro. And I bounced around, and just ended up finishing college with the general business degree. But and then after college, it worked out in a way, because it led me to medical device sales. So I had a perfect background for medical device sales. And this is a crazy story too. So, you know, now that like I get to look back at everything, like, you know, things happen for a reason, but also the skills behind it that come into being a business owner, entrepreneur, and kind of being creative. I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, but I was doing it. And I was golfing. You know, I love the golf. And I grew up with a buddy of mine. His dad was a gynecologist, and he was actually in front of us randomly. He was with his medical sales rep. I didn't know what that was. And we got to talk, and we ended up joining his group and playing. And he's like, you know, you guys should, you know, link after this. And it was towards the end of my college career. And so I flew out to New York, and I got lunch with the guy. He ended up giving me a referral, and I got an interview with this company right before I graduated, and ended up getting the job. So that worked out perfectly. So they flew me out to train in Orange County, California. And I think I'm an island boy at heart, because I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania originally. So I'm used to the cold weather. And but when I went out to California, I loved it, man. And palm trees, if you don't know me, palm trees are my thing. Look at my background. Yep. And I'm like, I'm like, keep me out there. So I was out there for a few months training, and I thought I was going to get the San Diego territory. And they said very quickly, you look like you're from Jersey. So they sent me to Jersey. So I ended up in South Jersey in Cherry Hill. So I had the Philadelphia and then South Jersey territory. So I spent about a year there, and then they shipped me up to basically upstate New York. So I spent just under a year up there in a place called Beacon, New York. It's by Newburgh.
Oh, get out of here, bro. I used to go hiking in Beacon all the time.
Dude, I just went hiking there the other day. I was right below it. Yeah. Dope area as far as like, I mean, it's beautiful, but you know, as how old was I? I was 24 at the time, and it was before Uber kind of made its way outside the cities. So dude, like, I mean, I had nothing to do. I didn't know anybody. I mean, I'd go out and try to make friends, but you're out there, you know. So beautiful area, but it was kind of rough for a second, and that's where it kind of all started, where I started diving deep. You know, I started reading Tony Robbins books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because I had nothing else to do. And, you know, just being, you know, basically 2 years into my job, even though it was a great profession, it was sales, I had a territory. So it was kind of like, you know, having your own business in a way. There was something that held me back, or it just didn't feel right. Obviously I wasn't, you know, I wasn't born saying I want to be a medical device rep. And that's something that I always prided myself on, is that, you know, I wasn't going to let anybody, you know, put a title on me, or let them tell me, you know, what I was going to be. I knew, you know, always wanted to create something or a product. I was always drawing in notebooks growing up, but I never took it seriously. That goes back to the thing. It was kind of always just like a side thing, but this is what you're going to do. You're going to go get a job.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was kind of my thought process, until I said, I can't do this corporate life, for the rest of my life. And then I'm like, maybe this stuff that I was always thinking about or doing on the side and not taking serious or putting first is the way. But that would come and go. And so after a little while, I basically told my company, I'm going to leave if you don't, put me in a different territory. And I have a bunch of friends. I went to West Virginia University, so big New Jersey pool, Philly pool. So I have some friends from college out here, and I'm like, I knew that the Manhattan territory and the Bronx territory were open, and they looked for a territory manager down there. So I told my company, hey, listen, I'm ready to take it on. They're scared to put, newer reps down there because New York hospitals are, top in the world. So, they had some faith in me, and I proved my point, and so they gave me a chance down there. So I spent about a little over 2 years in the New York City territory. I did really well. So I proved myself there. And so now we're about a little over 4 years deep into medical device sales. And over the course of it, I was always listening to podcasts.
Yep.
Looking in real estate was never in my family. It was actually, my dad's going to hate me for saying this, but he told me not to get into real estate. He had a couple rentals across from his practice, and he had some issues with it and this and that. So he was just looking out for me, but I never looked into it. It was always like stocks and the normal things you should invest in. So until I started catching things on YouTube, and I actually attended a couple local. So when I transferred down to New York, I got an apartment in Union City, right outside of Hoboken. Yep. And there was a couple, and that's where I started kind of learning more about real estate. I attended a couple meetups. Didn't really take action, but I was just soaking in the knowledge. And then I ended up meeting Eddie Lopez. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He does fix and flips up here in North Jersey.
Name sounds crazy familiar.
Yeah, he helps run or host the peak lending meetups.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So ended up running into him, and he was speaking at the one thing, and afterwards I talked to him. We went out to lunch, and he had this one lead, and he wasn't really working it, so I worked it for like 6 months. It was a vacant house, and I called the lady. She lived in where she lived. The house was, I think she might have lived in Teaneck, and the house was up here in Woodbridge, New Jersey. But I didn't know what I was doing, but and that was probably the art of it. But I called her for like 6 months straight. Finally got her over. I was the first person to see the property. This was right before 2020, and so I was still working my job. And in the meantime, Eddie lined up a builder because we knew it was subdividable. It was a corner lot. And so we lined it up. So I knew where he would buy it at. And I just used my sales skills. I know what I was doing. I trusted Eddie. And we got it under contract for $350,000. We had a builder that wanted to buy for 400.
Let's go.
Yeah. And so we got her to sign at 350, and then he told me about double closing. We ended up double closing the deal, and me and him split $44,000.
Bro, that's your first deal?
So I did one before that, but I don't really consider it a deal. It was like kind of like a listing referral. I think I made like $2,000 on it, but this was my first deal.
Yo, let's go, man. That's a big proof of concept, right? So hold on, let's sum this up for a second. We went over a lot, man. Your origin story. Bro.
I just went from 0 to 100.
I like it, bro. So your origin story, you find yourself as a young kid, you're hustling, you're out there, and you really just know, like, hey, I'm gonna go out and like do this, like make this work, right? Go take care of the lawns, go take care of snow, like get a truck, like do that kind of thing, which is pretty fire, right? Because it does, like you said, it puts you out there. There's something about being able to go knock on strangers' doors and like start offering a service. Like that's a muscle that I recommend everybody work on for at least some time in their life. It's just, you'll amaze yourself. So you do that, and then you graduate into, what I like is you graduate into essentially commission-based sales, like a commission-based career, which not for nothing, I personally believe like anyone that's like commission based, at that point, you really are working for yourself because everything you're doing is incentivized by your performance, right? It's performance based. And essentially, entrepreneurship is the same way. It's performance based. If you don't perform, you don't eat, like you don't get anything. So the fact that you put yourself in that position, it's somewhere else where, all right, like what I can create is what I can take home. And you start pushing for more, more, and more. Put me in bigger territories. Let me show you what I can do. You're building these sales skills. You're listening to the right podcast. What made you want to switch? Like I missed that part. Like why? Because I imagine if you're in a bigger territory like New York, New Jersey, you know, and you're starting to do well, like they're starting to see like, all right, this guy's got something. You know, you're probably earning like decent money at that age, you know, especially at that age. And I'm sure you don't have responsibilities yet where that money is actually, it can suffice.
Yeah.
Why not just be comfortable there? Why not just chill out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, I actually finished #1 in the country. Like my parents, my parents, when I told them I was leaving the job, they cried. And that they're gonna hate me for saying that, they cried because I like and I had no proof I didn't know. But one thing I did know is it's in my IG handle. I don't know where it came from, but it's observe the masses and do the opposite, create your own path. I think I made that up, but it could have came from something over the years, but I don't remember, so I'm just gonna claim it. But there was always this thing, and I thought it was not negative, but I guess I didn't understand it because I was not that my parents pushed me in one direction or anything. They've been the biggest supporters. They want what's best for you know, just like any parent. But I always ventured out, and I knew, going back to the box thing, I just wanted to be different. And the concept of like that, I wasn't born to be a medical device salesman, even though, listen, I'll tell you guys, like that last year I finished, I made it, I think I finished with 213,000, you know, in commission. So, I mean, this was at 25 years. Yeah. Like I did amazing, you know, and that's, you know, amazing money, you know, and so, but it wasn't, I knew something was off because it wasn't about that. When it happened, nothing changed, but it was still on my, at the time I didn't know, but my why, you know, my purpose. And it was just bigger. I always had a vision of creating something. And even though that I had a territory, I was in sales, I was making good money, not that it wasn't really my own, but it was, there was a limit placed on me. I knew that even if I couldn't repeat that, just the way the commission was set up and the contracts that ended up going through. That's why I wanted to be in New York, because the contracts are bigger, the hospitals are bigger. I knew that, you know, one, I could prove myself there. And, you know, if I could do that, one, that was a big proving point for me, but for everybody else. But I knew I could make a lot of money. So that was behind it. But there was always something bigger and a creative side to me. And that's where when I discovered real estate, it was always about developing a product or a business, but I never really, it's like getting a tattoo. This is funny, but I always wanted to get a tattoo, but I never could come up with that exact one I wanted. I never got it.
I know what you mean.
You know, so that the whole product thing or developing, I had like these healthy alcoholic drinks. Look at, this was back 10 years ago. Look at now, that's the thing is like low carb, you know, alcohol seltzers and all of that. But it was always like a product until I saw real estate. And I'm like, you get creativity, there's no cap on your limit, you help people. And starting, I think Max Maxwell was like the first big guy. This was, you know, back 2019 that I started watching. And you know, as far as his content going to meetups, and I'm like, you know, it just all started clicking. And I'm like, this kind of makes sense. This is what I've been looking for. You know, I don't really need like a product-based business. There is the product and the solutions we provide, but it just clicked. And once, you know, one, I did really well that year, and I, you know, saved up financially and kind of was, you know, tracking, okay, if I didn't make any money in it, I could live for 12 months and, you know, pay my bills and all that. And then the proof of concept doing that deal, obviously, was a huge bonus. But, you know, again, that came from me going to meetups. That came from me going up to Eddie after. And so I knew I had, what it took to do this, and in the creative side of being in the right place, talking. It's all about talking to people. And I took a leap of faith because I knew that I would not be who I wanted to be if I stayed working for somebody else, basically. And there was some internal things. Like I said, this is all very recently. I've dug this deep, but I didn't know it's been cloudy. But there's been things in me that I wanted to uncover because I felt a hole in my foundation. But I knew if I went out on my own, put my back against the wall, and took the leap of faith and put myself in difficult situations, scary situations, that the best version of me would eventually come out, whether that was 10 years down the road, 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road. But I knew to be where I wanted to be, even though I didn't know where it was, but I knew I wanted something more, that I was going to have to get uncomfortable. And I think that was the biggest thing.
Bro, I'm getting chills. Like I just got full body chills just now. Like no joke. Like goosebumps. Like can't tell on the camera. Goosebumps literally just went across my entire arm, right? Because what you're talking about is something that's so important to understand. Like I'm happy you're saying this, right? Because I want people. Sometimes like they don't hear it. Like they got to hear it from someone else. It's got to come from another voice. It's got to come from another person, right? So I'm happy that you're saying this. That essentially you realized for yourself that the best parts of you were always born from these situations of going through being uncomfortable, right? Going through challenge, going through difficulty, going through resistance, going through the dark, right? That's where that better version of you always seem to tap into that. Do you remember, like, were you always in tune and aware of that being the case? Like, because it takes a certain type of person to basically hit that wall of like, it's about to be uncomfortable. I'm about to be out in the ocean. The tide might pull me, to keep swimming out versus like turning back and going back to shore that you just came from. Like,
yeah, I think that's been one thing. I've always been self-aware, had that intuition where, I was always a thinker. And a lot of times it didn't do me well. I overthought about things in the past, but I was always a thinker, and I'd always reflect on good or bad. And like I said, this was like amateur hour. Like it wasn't so clear. I wasn't analyzing it the way we are now, because we study our minds and self-growth and all of that. So we learn, through our books, podcasts, education. But back then it was just, it actually worked out. I was just taking action, but I was thinking about it. And there was one moment where I think it was back when I was honestly probably knocking doors with landscaping, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right, but it keeps getting results, whether they say no or yes.
Interesting.
And because it wasn't what you were taught. Like, you're not taught to go knock on somebody's door, you don't know. And sometimes they're kind of freaked out by it. But I took that and I got a reaction, whether that was good or bad. But I would always reflect on what would end up happening to me. And yeah, I've always been somebody to think about it. So now that I understand everything and can kind of picture it, and it's more clear. But back then, I guess I was doing it subconsciously.
So Lenny, let me check this. Like I want to break this down, because you just dropped a major gem, and hopefully people who were listening and caught this, right? Because I noticed three things, right, that you just said, right? Because at first you labeled yourself as being an overthinker.
Mm-hmm.
Then you added on top of that, though, that you were still taking action. So, maybe in the beginning there was a lot of overthinking, and you were able to create the label like, hey, I'm an overthinker because I'm not taking action. So let me couple some of this action into it. And I noticed that you didn't take away the thinking, because you said, no, I'm still thinking. I'm just taking action and coupling it with that thought. And then there's this third layer that a lot of folks don't recognize, which is the reflection, right? Because you said whether it was going good or going bad, it was producing a result. And that's really rare to hear. Like, I don't actually hear a lot of people, like some people might say like, yeah, it's producing a positive result or producing a negative result. You're like, no, it was producing a result. I was getting data. I was getting feedback. And based off of that feedback, I was able to make adjustments. And that ultimately, it sounds like, kept propelling and allowing you to actually uncover the path? Because I think a lot of people think the path is just going to be fully laid out in front of you once you make up your mind to do something. Like the whole 1,000 miles of the
Yeah.
path is just laid out there. But I think upon reflection, you probably notice that the path comes to you step by step, right? With every, every new reaction, every new result ultimately starts to unveil the next step to take.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's also not going against the flow, and that's one thing that before I even start studying, the mind and everything like that, one thing I did recognize was no matter what, I always felt better after I would do something that was maybe you would consider categorized as uncomfortable. Even though I didn't do that in the past, and there's been a lot of times where I overthought myself out of things like everybody. But it's all been starting to come together very recently where, I'm like, I'm better off if I keep it simple because I know, I kind of work with myself. Everybody's different and you don't got to make a complete 180 or these giant leaps, but you got to understand yourself and you got to love yourself. And, when you start focusing on within, that's where it all changes, but there's balance. So I realize that I'm a thinker, and everybody can, probably say that they're a thinker, but I know that, if no matter what, I'm going to think, but if I can just dumb it down a little bit, balance it out with taking action, I don't have to think as much as I think I have to, if that makes any sense at all. But that's kind of how I would, get by or start to see success is I would calm myself down. I know that no matter what I'm going to think, but I would take action. But afterwards, I started to recognize no matter the result, if I fell on my face or whatever, I felt better than when I just sat there and didn't do anything and overthought myself out of it.
Man, you gotta say that louder for the people in the back, man, because that's the biggest thing, right? Like a lot of people will just kind of play with the thought, play with the imaginary scenario over and over and over, and they don't recognize it does no good unless you couple it. Like it needs to be coupled with action. Like it needs a body to live it. Like all that thought needs to be expressed. And if it doesn't get expressed, then it's as good as if it was never even thought.
You're holding it in, and it's crazy to say, but I would rather lose $100,000 deal because I botched the phone call than not making it and losing it to somebody else. And that takes a lot. And listen, I'm not going to act like, it doesn't hurt me. And even I might have that second thought still, but that's my mindset now is that I was able to let it out, and that comes back to everything that I kind of struggled with over the years. And just to be vulnerable and keep it, that's my big thing now too, is giving everybody the real me, not comparing myself or trying to be like anybody else. And, just no matter what, just, being myself. And if it doesn't work out, or I say something that somebody else doesn't react to, or I lose a deal because of something I said at the wrong time, I could live with that easier than if I just let it pass me by.
So, Lenny, let's talk about two things because you just tapped on something with like that authenticity. And like, I want to talk about something that hopefully my goal with this next topic is to help somebody.
We digging deep yet?
That's, bro, we're going deep, bro.
Right.
So check this out, because you've got the sales skills, right? And you just tapped in on the fact that your biggest thing right now is focusing on showing up authentic. And, you mentioned having watched Max Maxwell on YouTube, right? Watching some of these other people, I could share this, right? When I watched those guys, I got inspired, right? And with that inspiration, I tried to mimic what they were doing, right? Getting on the phone, talking like them, trying to sound like them, so much to the point where like Quentin Flores, I literally used to like copy his laugh. Like I would try to laugh at the same time he would laugh when I was talking to sellers. And one day, like it occurred to me, I was like, bro, if I really want to mimic these guys, notice that none of these guys are copying each other, right? They're all showing up authentic. That's what really copying them means. It means showing up as yourself. If you really want to copy them, pay attention to what they're actually doing, which is they are themselves. Quentin's into anime. Max Maxwell's into dressing fresh and like being that dude, right? I'm like, everyone had their own style. And when I started to lean into that, oh my gosh, the calls started getting better. My sales skills started going through. I started transferring energy over phone calls versus like not being able to. And it sounds like you tapped into that. Especially, I'm curious because you're starting to get into new rooms. You're starting to get into rooms with higher level people, right? And I'm wondering if what you're noticing inside those rooms, like what's the difference between some of those individuals and yourself included versus some of the people who aspire to be there but aren't quite there yet? Like, what's the missing link when you look and you're just like, oh, bro, like this is the part that's missing, or
Dude,
one of the pieces?
we'll start deep and go out, but it's belief and faith. That's where it starts, in yourself. And that's so funny you brought that up, is because when I joined CG recently, I can honestly say I'm probably the lowest guy in the room, and that's exactly what I wanted. I barely got in, but the gentleman who interviewed me for it said, Lenny, just promise me one thing. When you go to these meetings and you start interacting with our members, be yourself. Do not try to compare yourself to a guy that's doing $1 million a month or has 3,500 turnkey rentals. You're not that guy. Okay. You're on your own path. So apply or look into what you're trying to work on in your business or yourself. Gravitate towards those people that have what you want, take things from them, provide value. Cause that's one thing too. They said, why should we let you in? And I had to, prove them that I could provide value to the group. And one of that was being myself and, a lot of mindset things, having my podcast and helping people uncover, be authentic with themselves on any level, even guys that are way up there. Success is a funny thing. Guys can be at different levels, but they could be broken or not completely clear on the inside. So that's what I'm all about now is I'm lucky that I've caught on early enough that, I realized to get to that ultimate version of Lenny, I'm going to make sure that I'm building off of the correct foundation. So that's a huge thing. And then one more thing to tie in, that it's awesome you brought this up, because I think my sales have went up and my confidence over the phone, because I'm still closing deals for our company and everything. And, they talk about scripts and everything, and I have a format or bullet points to hit, but I only could take conversations or get such a result going so far, copying somebody else's style, like you said, because you're never going to have 100% rapport or trust or transparency if you're being somebody else.
Yep.
And I think it goes deeper than that, because I love digging deep, and I wasn't completely satisfied or had the belief in Lenny, until recently, where I thought I had to lean on somebody else. Now listen, cover what you need to, the 4 pillars or whatever you go by. Make sure you get what you need to out of the phone call. But if somebody trusts you by, and it's so easy, like me and you, we're just freely flowing, we're talking, you're getting the real both of us. If I was trying to be somebody else, or I was, making things up, you could tell.
Yep.
At least I can tell when other people are, and I can, obviously I can tell when I am, because when I used to try to be somebody else or not give everybody the full me or hold back, I thought I came through on my energy, and I didn't feel good afterwards. So it comes in steps. Some people can take off right away, but for me, it was a learning process, and I'm still trying, we're all still trying to master that. So,
yo, Lenny, you're getting me hyped up right now, bro. Because you're talking my language, man. Like, all right, check it out, man. Like, because we're gonna stay here, we're gonna hang out in this deep water for a little bit, because people, like, what, I used to assume that everyone already like hung out in this space, right, in this part of the ocean, in this part of the pool. And then I realized, no, it's just that, like, myself, guys like you, guys that I surround myself with, girls I surround myself with, we happen to do this, but a lot of other people don't. So they need some more exposure, right? They need some time out here. They need to get accustomed to the waves out here. And when you're showing up authentic, you're absolutely right. Like, humans are innately good at being able to sniff out BS, right? Because we had to be, like, it's a survival mechanism. We needed to know when someone was trying to trick us, betray us, lie to us. So we're very good at it. Although we might not logically ever be able to tell you, like, I don't know what exactly you said that's off. Like, I don't know where the lie is or the deception is in the whole story, but I can feel something. And the walls start to come up. And we don't want the walls coming up. Like, we do so much more when the walls are down and we can actually work together and we can trust people to cross back and forth over those boundaries. We can create bridges of connection and collaboration. That is where things really go to the next level. However, like you said, like, you've got to be able to be authentic with yourself first, right? You got to be able to show up true. And it's funny you say that, man, because I forget if I told you this, when I go out to meetups and when I go to events like Clever Summit, this week we got All In, things of that nature. When I go out to masterminds, I give myself an intention list, right? There's actually an intention. What is it that I want to take away from here? Who do I need to speak with? Things of that nature. And something that's on the intention list every single time. It's exactly what that guy told you. It's show up authentic. Like, I literally write down Marlon, show up authentic. Do not let anyone else scare you into pretending to be big. Do not let anyone scare you in pretending to be small. Show up as yourself. Show up who you are and lean into that. And to your point, where we look at some folks sometimes, right? We see these people that are big, right? They're doing 7, 8, 9 figures, and we assume everything else in their life is absolutely well put together, not recognizing that they might need help with something. And that something is something that you may already have. You're like, hey, look, I've already done this inner work. I've done this mindset work. I've done this soul work. And I can actually bring this to you. I can actually help condense timeframes for you to get you to that level. Whereas you can help me condense timeframes over here, business-wise. Let me help you condense timeframes on a personal level, on some of your personal goals, on your personal mental health, mental well-being, your spiritual health and well-being. And that's really cool that you're able to recognize that, because there are some people who have that skill set, who know they have the capacity to change an environment based off of their own energy, based off of the words that they speak, the knowledge that they have. They can broker some of that information to somebody else. However, because they feel like they don't match up in another particular area, they're hiding their gift. They don't even, not even they're hiding, they don't even recognize the level of value that their gift actually carries. And someone said something to me recently, Lenny. Danny Chavez said to me, he said, don't ever be so poor that all you have is money. And this is the guy that runs multiple businesses, has over 800 employees, absolutely crushing it. And this is what we're speaking about. We connected on talking about things outside of finances, right? That's where we were able to exchange value. That's where I was able to say, here's a gift for you from what I've learned. So the fact that you recognize that, I'm happy, and I'm emphasizing this because, like, I know there's somebody listening right now thinking like, oh my gosh, what I have is valuable. What I have is a superpower. The fact that, I've done the personal development, the fact that I know about it, the fact that, because there are some people that literally, like, you say the word personal development, and they're like, what's that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, let me show you.
Yeah. Dude, and the biggest power is honestly just being yourself.
It's so valuable.
And it's so funny. Yeah, it's so funny. The deeper we get, and the more successes and all of that, we're all chasing the same thing. And that's why this was like the aha moment. It's happiness, and it comes down to simplicity. And a lot of this stuff is simple concepts and laws to go by. It comes down to just understanding and building from within, knowing yourself. And I was lost. I burnt out, or I only got to a certain level of success within, my business ventures or past, work, doing medical sales and everything, because I was either comparing myself or waiting for that next success or result. And it only got me so far. And I was after it happened, I didn't have the, I guess, the emotional response I thought I would have. And it's like, oh, that was cool. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really understand it. I didn't understand anything until I started, because I was always comparing myself. I was always chasing the next thing. And so that's when it all reversed. And I started on this journey, being authentic, having belief and faith in myself. and just digging deep to understand why all this is going on. And you know what? It comes down to it's so simple. When you do that, things are so clear. And that's when everything unfolds. You get the abundance, things come to you, is because by being yourself and being able to give off that energy, and don't worry if you don't fully understand this yet, because it takes some time, it takes some deep thoughts.
Yep.
By able to hone in and have that full transparent, that authentic energy, you're able not only to give, that energy is coming out of you, but it's going to come back in tenfolds. And before, if you're holding back or you're giving out mixed signals, that's what you're going to get into your life. And so that's been the major change recently.
Bro, come on, man. You can't be opening up these can of worms.
Dropping bars.
Bro, because you just said again, I'm hoping that the people that are listening are like really paying attention. Like if you're driving, I'm literally like saying stop, like pull over, like really focus on this conversation, right? If you're multitasking right now, like chill out for a minute and focus on this conversation, especially this part right here, because Lenny just said something crazy valuable, which again, like these are the sort of conversations that have the ability to change your life. Like these are the sort of topics, right? Information changes situations, but only with comprehension and implementation. So you just said that there's almost like an internal conflict, right? Where we're taking action, but the internal identity doesn't necessarily agree with the action. And we find ourselves at these like crossroads, or we find ourselves at these plateaus, right? Where, we're basically stuck, right? Regardless of what level we're at. And I want people to understand this, right? Somebody can get really high up the mountain and still be stuck. You can get stuck at any point. You could be stuck at the bottom. You could be stuck in the middle. You could be stuck near the top, right? Anywhere that you find yourself not being able to break through is an uncomfortable situation that most people don't like. And at that point, you have two directions to go, either further up or you start going back the way you came, just for the sake of feeling motion, just for the sake of being able to get out of the situation you're in. And if we want to keep traveling up, the higher and higher we go, a little bit more difficulty, or a little bit more strength, I should say, a little bit more self-awareness is involved. And what you said there is that ability to actually recognize what the internal identity is and making sure that it's in alignment, right? Keyword alignment, that your actions match your words and vice versa, your words match your actions. Because when they don't, I can tell from personal experience, it sucks. Like it hurts internally. Like you don't feel good when your words and your actions do not line up. It sucks. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious for you now, like as you're becoming aware of this, like how is this like changing your behavior? Like, do you find that you're like, are you a different Lenny now? Like if I knew you and like, if I'm one of your homies from like high school and like, I see you now, like, what's the difference? Am I seeing a difference?
Yeah. I mean, good thing you don't know me from back then, like complete 180 in that situation. But dude, everything I do is with intention now. And, it cut the fat. I was sick of trying to go to a destination without a map or a GPS. And dude, honestly, just within the last couple months, man, I was still on this crazy zigzag journey, a year and a half into my real estate ventures. And my results, I came back in mix. It was inconsistent, not as far, I've always hustled and took action, but it was mixed as far as results and my energy and just purpose. And I thought I had the why figured out and all of that, but that's not enough. And so this spiritual journey, if you want to say, or this internal journey, just within the last couple months, and it takes dedication, and because you've got to act with intention. So everything you do, there has to be intention behind it. So it allows you to cut the fat. You actually get more time in your day. But I started meditating. I started journaling. We both have the same books right now, which are awesome. The Law of Attraction Planner, and then the 4 Maps of Happy, Successful People. Doing things like that can cause clarity. And I'm not there yet, guys. I mean, I'll be the first one to say, like, I'm not completely clear, but I'll tell you what, a lot of the excess stuff on the side is out of the picture. And in my days, I hate structure. So I used to think that this was, corny, or the structure, and that's not me. But you need this if you're gonna want to be your best version, or not feel lost or confused all the time. You need to put a roadmap together for your life, and everything will change. But the biggest thing is, when I started being selfish in the right way to be selfish, it's not what you think selfish term is, but self-help and self, health in a way, and really dedicating to understanding yourself. That's how you become the best version of you. And in return, you're able to give that out and help more people, because you're clearer, you have better energy. And that has just blossomed my relationships, whether it's in sales or personal, family, friends. Is that I think me being more clear, authentic, vulnerable, I can't even pronounce it, but with people, and them being able to get a more pure energy from me, has helped them. Because before, they were maybe getting mixed signals from me and I didn't realize it. So when I started realizing that, and seeing those results and reactions, and my relationships getting stronger, that's when I'm like, wow, this is what I've been missing. And I was kind of putting it off to the side, like this wasn't important, but it's the most important thing. It's not about the money will come, the external, the tangible results will, all of that stuff will come. But I'll tell you firsthand, like, I've made a lot of money and I've had success in other people's eyes, and won trophies and awards and everything. I was numb, man. I had no emotion to anything, because I would block it out, and I was just like push, 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 and the more results, things would change. That is not it, man. Focus on yourself, and that way you can project and give out the best version of you, and in return, the best things will come to you.
Bro. Like, you got no idea how much I love that right now, because it's so counterintuitive, right? And it rolls back to what you were saying earlier, right? When you see everybody, like when everyone's running left, you go right, right? It's contrarian thinking. And that's where you get the most result. Like, that is where you get leverage, right? Like, as investors, we want leverage in everything. We want to leverage our money, right? I want to leverage my time. I want to leverage my relationships. I want to leverage my personal development. I want to leverage my energy and effort. So where can I put this energy to get the most amount of results, period?
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to always be in yourself. Like, the best investment you make, like Warren Buffett, arguably the world's greatest investor, right? That's alive currently, arguably. I think most people in the world would agree that no matter whose list you put him on, he's like top 10, no matter whose list, right? And he always comes back and says that the number one investment you can make, right? He's not looking at a stock. He's not saying it Berkshire Hathaway, right? He's saying the number one investment you will ever make will be into yourself, right? Jim Rohn used to tell us, learn to work harder on yourself than you do at your job. And that is where you will make.
Dude, and it's so funny, because it doesn't come in the form. You don't get paid for this or anything like that. And I think that's, I was, whatever you told me to do, like I said, I would do the opposite. And this is one thing, because I knew the people where I wanted to be were doing this, but growing up and 20 something years of what I thought was right, that this was not right. And so I fought it, I blocked it out until basically I had no choice. And I'm like, I see everybody there where I guess I wanted to be or was comparing myself to at the time. And they all built from within. And I was like, well, yeah, it's easy for them to say that now because they got millions of dollars, or they got this success, or they've achieved this. So, I get it. Like, now they have time to do it. But no, man, if I could go back, it's just like wholesaling. I was told to build my cash buyers list and build that first and then start. I didn't do that, of course. And I got smaller deals and I struggled. So, if I could go back, it's do the opposite of what that little voice in your head wants you to do. Because chances are, what you think is right is wrong. And that's a whole nother topic. But if you want to be the best version of you, focus on yourself.
That's so good. So Lenny, I want to be respectful of your time, man, because you and I could literally talk
I
about
love
this.
it, bro.
I'm like almost like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, we got to figure out a way to get Lenny on here like once a month, where it's just like, boom, knock this topic out, boom, let's hit this topic, but I want to be respectful of your time, bro. So there's a few questions I always like to ask right near the end of these episodes that I like to give people some perspective, right? You mentioned before that you were reading a lot of books, right? You started picking up and diving into Tony Robbins, right? You picked up Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and you've gone through a lot of mindset work, spiritual work. Can you name no more than two books that were total paradigm shifts for you, that after you picked it up, you've never quite been the same? And I'm actually going to pull two books off the list before they can get said. I'm hoping that they weren't on your mind, but everyone's read these. They're staples. So no Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and no Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, because those books are staples. Like if
those books are out. I wasn't going to name them anyways. But
right,
those are very important ones. You guys should definitely start.
They should be in everybody's library. If you don't have those books in your library long enough, this better be the first episode you're tuning in with me, because there's no excuse at this point.
The first one was going to be The Secret. And these are all more recent, but like I said, I did everything backwards. So learn from my mistakes. Start with The Secret. I'm not even going to explain it. Just start listening to it. It's completely next level. The next one, which I'm not actually completely the way through, but it's incredible. It's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Ooh, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
There it is.
Bro. Dang, that dude, he's on another level with it. I'm glad you're reading through that book, man.
Yep, helps you not get in your own way and kind of everything we touched on. But again, if I would have known these in the beginning, oh my gosh, my foundation to take on the world, anything, take on myself, I would have had that unlimited attitude, which I didn't have that abundance or that unlimited attitude when I first started, and it held me back from. I always was confident, but when it came to digging deep, I had scarcity. And that's the biggest thing. These books will change that 100%. And the two that we just mentioned that I'm working through right now, and it's kind of like the next level of journal. And because I always struggle with journaling, and every day would be something different. So I needed some structure and some path with it. So the Law of Attraction Planner, which you can get on Amazon, and then the 4 Maps of Happy Successful People. I think that's the correct name for the title, but that is also, you can find that on Amazon as well. And I'm a visual person, and I always loved art and everything. So drawing things out along with writing has helped me. And you can't see it obviously, but I just bought this huge, it's like a 6 by 4 foot a whiteboard, and I'm gonna make this whole vision board, and I'm all in. So
I wish you could see. It's in my room right now. I just put together a vision board like 2 weeks ago.
Boom, bro. So
it's fire.
Yeah, I just keep getting results, and I keep feeling better. Everybody wants to be happy, and that's when it comes down to it. That's what I've always been chasing, because I've always been chasing. I use that word, and it's always like, okay, I achieved this, but now I'm already on to the next. That was cool. But everybody wants to be happy, and I'm doing all these things. Put me in the moment more. Let me focus on myself, feel my emotions deeper. And this has all caused, me to be happy, and my energy's better. And through all that, I've been able to recently have better results because I have a better attitude and better energy. So guys, I'm telling you, I was always against this stuff and I thought it was corny, but this stuff is game changing. And if you don't do this, you will eventually. So you better start now.
Bro, I love that, man. There's something I read this morning. It was funny enough. I read it in my own journal. Like I don't even remember writing this, and it said, "Light yourself on fire with enthusiasm, and let the world come and watch you burn." And bro, like when you're right, when your energy starts changing, like yo, you just show up to life different. And I always tell people, please, please, like everything you hear, right? Don't just take our word for it. Please don't just be like, oh yeah, like that. No, all of this information is meant to be tested. It's meant to be tested in the laboratory of your life. Like this is a science experiment. I need you to run the test, see if it works, right? We're giving you a hypothesis. You don't actually know if it works yet. This is all theory until you apply it.
Yeah.
Find out for yourself.
Yeah.
So, oh, I feel like you got something that
No, go ahead.
All right, so check this out, bro. Check this out. You know, I actually have a third question. I normally don't ask the third question, but like for you, I'm very curious to ask it, right? Because we're talking about success and we're talking about now measuring it on different metrics, right? Because oftentimes most of us young men nowadays measure success purely off financial, right? Just, yo, let me see your checkbook. And I believe financial health and financial success is a part of the equation. However, I'm curious to know from yourself now, after having achieved a good, healthy amount of financial abundance, how are you measuring success today?
I realized it was always chasing numbers and financial success. Yes, I mean it's one of the most important tools in your toolbox. Like it is the most important. I think people have the wrong perception of it. And numbers are super important, but I was always numbers driven, and it would drive me nuts. And when I focused on the other things, the things that like abundance and having that clarity, that's financial success, because that comes from having that clarity, or having with your business, knowing how the business should be ran, being a good business owner, having the mission statement for your business. I mean, this all plays into being clear. It starts with you. So I was wondering why my numbers, and yes, I was having financial success, but were all over the place, is because I was all focused on numbers, and I was leaving it to the external environment to predict my income in a way. It just came through pure hustle. So financial success is measured differently now. It's measured on how clear me and my partner are with our vision, our purpose. And yes, we do have numbers that we're trying to achieve and grow our business to, but it starts from within. And that's financial success, because we know that if we accomplish that and have everything aligned, then the numbers are going to come. It's just proof of concept. It's like gravity. So that is our new focus of financial success. It's having the clarity as business owners, and being able to project that energy out, which will project onto our number sheet.
That's big. I love that. So check this out. Final question I have for you is, I want you to imagine, Lenny, tomorrow you wake up, and as you wake up, you got that TV screen behind you showing you that beautiful blue ocean, bro. However, you don't remember anything. You don't remember your time pushing lawnmowers. You don't remember your time doing sales. You don't remember the real estate ventures. You don't remember what you've learned as an entrepreneur, the books you've read, the relationships you've built, the experiences you've had. I'm talking like completely blank. And as you start to come to consciousness, you begin to have a thought. And this thought that comes to you, you immediately accept it, right? Like there's no resistance to it. There's no fighting it. There's no questioning it. It is just 100% true to you. And this thought begins the foundation of everything else that is ever to come to you. What would you ideally like this first thought to be?
I'd submit to myself. So that'd be the first thing. The thought would be to be submissive and to myself, because I always fought myself. So I'd submit to myself, and I would build off that. So no ego, no comparison, nothing from the external world. I'd be okay with being in the moment and being me, and let my wonders throughout the day carry me and have that belief.
Bro, I gotta say, man, that's the first answer I got like that. That's really stinking cool. I was like, when you said submit to yourself, I was lost. I was like trying to figure out what that meant. I like that. I can see how that being such a core principle would guide you exactly where you need to be. You know, it's so scary for us to go with the flow, right? I think like a lot of people like say it because like it sounds cool, it looks good on a t-shirt, right? But to actually find that balance of knowing where you want to be and then going with the flow to get there, you know, it's a tricky balance, you know, but it's worth the ride.
Dude, I'm on the verge of just, I feel like just that's ultimate clarity where all the struggles in my life were one, complexing things, overthinking, but it was always a battle. The reason why I was thinking is because I was fighting. I thought at first it was just external factors, but it was myself. Why am I spending all this energy fighting against myself? Why not go with the energy, go with the flow? So submit to it. So when I get caught in thought or this and that or negative, whatever, everybody has thoughts, you can't block them, but it's submitting to it. Okay.
Yep.
Don't waste your energy on it and just build off of it. If you have your vision, if you have your core values, all of that, submit. Don't try to block off bad. You'll spend too much energy trying to block things off or fight it. Submit to it and build off the good energy.
Man, they say what resists persist. So I like that. So Lenny, for everyone that's now been listening to you and they're just like, damn, this dude is cool as hell. His mindset's on point. He's doing well in business. His freaking arms are filling up the screen. Like, I want to get connected with him. Like, how do they get connected to you, bro? Like, where should people go to find you?
Yeah, at Lenny_Poliziani. I'll spell that out. So Poliziani. That's Instagram. Same thing with TikTok, Facebook, Lenny Poliziani. I keep it simple. And then my podcast is called The Lenny Poliziani Show. Success starts in the mind. So I'm on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. So just make sure you spell my name right. You'll find me. Happy to connect, man. We do deals in real estate nationwide. We have a pretty cool thing that we've learned we basically call it the Concierge Method or the retail method, where we can wholesale to conventional buyers. We've learned it through the strategy of novation through pace, and Eric Brewer teaches this, but we have our way patented down, and it's working pretty well. And we've helped people within the sub 2 community where me and you originally met. So yeah, man, I'm here to connect, help out, mindset, obviously, real estate, business in general, reach out, and I'm here for you.
Bro, I love that. So everybody, I recommend you plug in with Lenny. Like, you already know the way my show works. I only invite people of high value, people that if you started connecting with them and learning from them, your life would immediately get better. Those are the only people I bring onto this show, right? Those are the only people I allow in my campfire. So I highly recommend you reach out to Lenny. Like, if you resonated with him, connect, DM him, go to his YouTube, subscribe to his podcast, take in the content, resonate with him. If you're local to this area, I mean, you're getting ready to move soon, so hopefully they'll come find you where you're at. I'm not gonna say where you're going at. I don't know if you want people to know yet, but definitely plug in. And I'm gonna have all of the descriptions, all of his links, everything below in the description. So if you're listening on Spotify, YouTube, just scroll down, go click that. And I want to ask one thing: if you got any sort of value at all from this episode, or you feel like this episode can help somebody else, I want you to share this episode right now, not tomorrow, not a week from now, not next month. Share it right now, because this conversation can literally change somebody else's life. So that's all I ask. We don't charge for this. Lenny gave up an hour of his time to be here, and I appreciate it immensely. So that's what I'm going to ask of you today, is that you pay it forward by passing it along and sharing it with somebody else who this can help. Yo, Lenny, bro, I appreciate you so much for coming on the show, man. Like, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your story. I appreciate your energy. And I'm looking forward to doing some deals with you, man.
Dude, 100%, man. I was looking forward to this. I mean, our podcast that we did on mine was wild. I already say we're doing a part 2. We vibe like this, man. It's digging deep. I love people that can dig deep, that are practicing and on themselves. And man, it's just it's just exciting because you realize that there's unlimited potential, man. I mean, the sky's the limit once you really hone in on yourself, and there's no limitations. So I'm on the journey, guys. I mean, listen, like I don't have it all figured out, but I've unlocked some doors recently, and I just felt like I needed to share it. So
Yo, let's go. Yo, IG, appreciate y'all for being on here with us. Facebook, we appreciate y'all. About to end this stream. Lenny, me and you, I gotta actually, bro, you gotta hang out for 2 seconds. We gotta run something by you, bro.
100%, bro. I'll catch you later.